Okay, this Telegraph founder, Pavel Durov, he was arrested in Paris. Is it really the French arresting him, or is the U.S. wants him? In that case, we got another Julian Assange case.
I
Is that
think
what it?
it's. I'm sure the US is involved in this. I mean, of course, they're saying they're not, but I can't believe that they're not. I mean, what's been going on? Look, I mean, just see what's been going on over the last couple of weeks. We've had all sorts of people like Scott Ritter being arrested and examined, and
Mhm.
there's been lots of outcries about social media and attempts to clamp down on social media, and now they go after Pavel Durov, and I'm sure the US is involved. I mean, I don't think in this case necessarily it's Biden and people like that,
Okay.
but the permanent state, the deep state people, as far as they're concerned, this is this is a social media operation that is out of their control, so they want to control it. The exact parallel is with TikTok.
Uh-huh. Hmm. Yeah.
TikTok, they went against TikTok because it was Chinese.
Mhm.
Telegram is seen as being sort of Russian in some way, even though Durov has had issues with the Russian authorities. So
Yes.
they go after Durov.
Richard Medhurst, right? He was arrested
Mm,
in Britain, I guess.
yeah.
So there's really a clampdown, yeah, on the social
Yes.
media sphere. Well, what's
Yes.
what do they want to control? Is it the Ukraine message or the Gaza message? I mean, what are they trying to control here? It's the information is already out there. I think it's too
They
late.
they want they want to control everything. I mean, you see this. I mean, I get the sense, for example, if you're talking about China and Chinese social media, that most people in China, to the extent that they're interested in the conflict in Ukraine at all, and I think a lot of people in China are very interested in
Yes.
international affairs, as it happens. But those who are interested, I suspect most of them more sympathetic to Russia than they are to Ukraine. But it is possible, obviously, in China to be sympathetic to Ukraine.
Mhm.
In the West, it's becoming very, very difficult to oppose the authorities, to argue with the authorities, or to take positions contrary to those of the authorities on any issue, be it domestic or foreign. We are becoming very, very repressive, even as at the same time we go on criticizing China and other countries for not being democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I would say if I compare, I myself have content on the Chinese social media. Yes, it does get censored, and do need to. I mean, my editor there, they do take out certain words and stuff like that. But worst case, they take down your content, and in some cases, not happened to me, but it happened to some self media person. Is that they will ban you for a week, and then I
Yeah.
think sometimes a month. Worst, probably 3 months. But they as far as I know, I don't see anyone who get arrested, that being put away
No,
for your expression,
no.
so it's
Well, the other thing is it's honest. I mean, it's clear. I mean,
yeah.
you know where you stand with
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Durov. I mean, he had some problems with the Russian authorities. By the way, it's not true that the Russians wanted to end the encryption services on Telegram. They wanted Durov's assistance in certain specific cases involving what the Russian authorities said were criminal activities. And
Yeah.
he took an absolutist position. He said, I'm not prepared to cooperate at all
Mhm.
about this. And the Russian authorities weren't happy, but they didn't arrest him. And he left Russia. And then, of course, he was praised in the West. And they were saying, that he's a great champion of freedom and liberty in Russia and all sorts of places. He was given French citizenship as an esteemed and heroic person. I mean, that this is, you read the terms upon which he was granted French citizenship. This is exactly what they say. He was invited by Macron to headquarter Telegram in Paris, a fact which the French don't like to mention now. And of course, because he really does believe in what he says, that he wants social media to be neutral and independent and free, they arrest him and they charge him. I mean, they charge him with complicity in the fact that some bad people use Telegram. The American lawyer Jonathan Turley said, if a gangster uses his telephone to contact members of his gang, do you arrest the chief of AT&T? I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah, that's how they charge him, with money laundering, a whole bunch of things that activities going on in, yeah, in Telegraph. Yeah. So
mm,
he's an interesting figure. He's
well,
certainly a very talented guy, but I do think he's a little bit naive in a lot of ways that somehow believe, I believe freedom and the West have freedom. And I mean, there are plenty of, examples. Julian Assange, right, is one case. And then, of course, in China, the social media, they talk a lot about the similarities, how he was arrested. Compare that with what Meng Wanzhou, the Huawei CFO, was arrested. Huawei's case, Meng Wanzhou also, Huawei already knew that US has their eyes on, Huawei. Actually, much longer than you thought. Even 10 years ago, they were saying that we continue to develop, one day the United States will be see it as a problem. So they actually aware of that. But they still, Meng Wanzhou still traveled to Canada to do a transfer somewhere in South America, and because they just never thought Canada would do something like that.
yeah.
I guess Pavel probably never thought France would do something like that. I guess.
No, of course not. In fact, he was sure that they wouldn't because, like, you're absolutely correct. He still has that sense of belief in the West that you do find not so much now amongst very young Russians. Young Russians, sort of the 20-year-olds are much more realistic about the world. But the older young people, the people who lived through the last years of the Soviet Union or the first years of, post communism, Durov is, I think he's 40. So yeah,
Yeah.
he would have been about, what, 10 when the Soviet Union collapsed and whatever. Anyway, some of them, they're not that many, but there are a few. They're not, the number is dwindling, but there are still some of them who believe all the propaganda that comes out of the West, that that in the West there's freedom, and in their own world, in their own countries, there isn't. So he came, and on the question of his arrest, just to say, I mean, he no warning that he had an arrest warrant in France.
Oh, okay.
He was about to fly to France.
Mhm.
Not his aircraft was going to stop in France for refueling. The pilot, before he took off in Dubai, telephoned the French authorities to tell them that he was coming. That the French airport authorities to tell him that he was going to come and land in France. And then when the French found that out, after the plane had taken off, they issued the arrest warrant. So
Okay.
I mean, it was. I mean, that was how it was done.
And it's a little bit tricky because in terms of Meng Wanzhou's case, she definitely is a Chinese citizen, so the Chinese government intervened the whole thing. But in his case, is he still a Russian citizen? Even Russia
Yes.
wants to help him. It's a little bit hard, isn't it, if he's no longer a Russian citizen?
They
Yeah.
are helping him, and he is a Russian citizen.
Okay.
Because from the Russian point of view, they're being
Okay.
absolutely straightforward about this. This is a wonderful propaganda thing. I mean, to say it square, I mean, they're not even making any secret of it.
Yeah.
Um, the Russian foreign ministry spokesman is going out and saying to everybody, all the people in the West, all these Western agencies, human rights agencies, so called, which supported him when he was in trouble with us.
Mhm.
What are they saying now? Are they coming out and supporting him this time? Of course, they're not. So, the Russians are making a big play of this. They're making a big play of the fact that they're coming to Durov's help, and the Medvedev, the former president, says that Durov made a huge mistake because he didn't have faith in his motherland
Yeah.
and all that. So I mean, they're playing all this. They're making the most of this issue, and you know
Why not?
unsurprising.
Yeah.
Why
Why not?
not?
Yeah.
And it is having a big impact in Russia. I mean, he's a very big name there.
Mm.
I mean, Telegram is a very important social media platform in Russia.
And the Chinese media also. I mean, the Chinese government hasn't making such a big play, but the social media, there is a lot of discussion
Yeah.
about that. That this is just for those people who believe the West, freedom. they can take your
Yeah,
freedom away anytime they
yeah,
want. So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.